Hey, everyone, it's Isaiah. Welcome. This is another episode of Isaiah's Inspiring Evenings, the podcast where we talk about things women don't talk about. So, this is one of the series, as you know, Things Women Don't Talk About. And it's made of conversations with a woman guest around topics that are seldom discussed, whether difficult or not serious enough to be broadcasted. So there can be mundane or sacred, dark or light, taboo or fun, because no subject is off the table. These conversations happen live and are then shared in my podcast and anywhere else the guest feels like sharing. Today, I am having a conversation with Annie Boon. Hi, Annie.
Hey, hi.
And we are discussing the Hush Festival. Annie's going to present it, and I'm going to be asking questions to know everything. But before we go in there, let me read Annie's bio so that you know a little bit who discussing today with. Sorry, my English. Annie Boon is a crisis navigator, a speaker, and the founder of transformative spaces for women navigating betrayal, abuse, emotional collapse, and profound life change. She works with women when life fractures and clarity feels impossible. Annie's gift is not urgency or answers, but presence. With a rare capacity to remain calm inside chaos, she holds emotional complexity without flinching and guides women back to stability, self trust, and grounded decision making. Annie doesn't fix, rescue, or direct. She creates the conditions where clarity emerges and women reconnect with their own inner authority. With a grounded, compassionate presence and a wicked sense of humor, she brings lightness into heavy spaces while telling the truth. Her no bullshit approach meets women exactly where they are, helping them become the calm in their own storm. Drawing from lived experience and years of working in high stakes emotional crises, Annie blends deep emotional intelligence with steady leadership while being fiercely private and deeply respectful. She's the creator of the Navigate method and the founder of the Hush Festival. Annie doesn't save women, she walks beside them until they remember they were never powerless. Powerful bio. So glad to be talking with you at last. We have
Yeah,
tried to do this for a few months now, but it was
yep,
either you or me. So I'm really happy that we're doing that today. And we are recording before, quite long enough before the 2026 edition of the Hush Festival. So if you're
yeah.
listening to this in the future, well, I hope that it's still important and that the Hush Festival lives on. If you're listening to this right now, you can still join the Hush Festival, which is happening in May 2026. We'll give you the exact dates in a minute. But thank you, Annie, for accepting my invitation, first
Okay.
of all. And I'm really happy that you're here to talk about a festival
Thank you.
in that is called Hush, so we don't talk about it,
Yep,
in a
same.
series that's called Things We Don't Women Don't Talk About. So now that we've established that we're going to be talking about something that we usually don't talk about,
Yeah.
what is the Hush Festival?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's awesome we finally got the time together. As you said, it's been us, the two of us juggling trying to figure this out, and
Hmm.
um, if I come straight into hush, the word hush is exactly as you described, being quiet, shh. But it also is as you get to see my work, a lot of my work I use acronyms. So
Hmm.
HUSH, hush, actually stands for her unique safe haven. Okay.
Ooh, I love
Yeah.
that. I didn't know that.
And it started out because I realized there are a lot of women who either cannot get onto a platform or are afraid to get on a platform for various reasons. And I know when I first started out, the topics I talk about, people were not willing to have me on their stages, or they were more interested in how many followers I had or how many I had on my email list. And I just thought to myself, there are women out there that have got tools and experience that other women need, but because they're just starting out or because they don't have a massive following, they are not getting the opportunity to share their magic, to share their talents, and to share what they know with people who actually need them. The reason it's a women's only environment is because I firmly believe that to keep a container safe, it has to be either men only or women only when it comes to these specific topics. Because if the moment you have a different gender entering the room, it puts a different
The
slant on.
dynamics change.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, if I'm talking about domestic abuse in a container that is specifically talking to women, I don't have to hold back and go, yes, I know men also get abused. I'm here talking to women who have been abused by men. And the second Hush Festival we did, it kind of almost morphed into the first one we did. It was very, very different topics, which I'll explain shortly. But by the time we got to the second Hush Festival, there were a lot of women who wanted to actually come and talk about or interact in the conversations about domestic abuse. Because, as you know, domestic abuse takes so many forms, and everyone thinks, oh, domestic abuse just means a man hits you. Abuse takes so many forms, and they are so hidden that people would never know what's happening behind closed doors, and hence this whole hush. And coming back to the actual container, it is small, it is private, it is confidential.
Sorry. Let's backtrack a little bit. So,
I'm getting
Hush is a
excited.
festival for women only.
Yeah.
And where is it happening?
Okay,
Online,
it is.
right?
Yeah, it's online. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely
So it's
online.
an online, small, safe container.
Yeah.
And I know that because you've talked about it to me before, a little bit,
Yeah.
that when you say safe, you are not joking.
No, I take it very seriously. Nothing can be 100% guaranteed, but I do everything that I can to make it a safe space. So the speakers are vetted beforehand, that I know exactly who they are, what they are, aiming to bring into the container. In addition to that, anybody who wants to be inside of Hush, listening to the talks or being part of the conversations, they all have to apply to get inside the container. And I have turned people away. There was a woman that I knew personally, but I knew she was in a frame of mind that she was too unstable for herself to be in that container. There was another person who signed up, and when I went and did a little, I'm not going to say how I check people out, but this was someone who literally didn't really exist. So it was a front for someone else. Now, sadly, maybe that was a woman who was too afraid to show her own face, so she used a pseudonym. But I'm sorry, I can't take that chance. So I did. I literally apologized publicly to say, if this was you and you are a woman in need, please reach out to me. But I can't take that chance. In addition to that, I've had speakers come to me 5 minutes before a talk saying, I'm very nervous about who's going to hear my talk. Can you quickly check if these names on this list are in this room? Because she was worried one of her family members or ex-family members might be in the audience. So, and I did the check, and luckily it wasn't the case. But had that been the case, I would have given the speaker the opportunity to talk and ask the person that's in the audience to, or maybe not even ask them. I didn't have to deal with that. I protect the women inside that group to the best of my ability, because I really think there are not enough safe spaces to actually have these
I
kinds of
agree.
conversations.
I agree. I have a stupid Facebook group, one of those free groups that I started, and I said this is going to be a woman only
Yeah,
group, and I thought that this was going to be easy. It
yeah,
it it's freaking time consuming to check the people, and people
yeah,
are some people are just ruthless. I mean, I've had people that whose picture is a man called John Smith apply, and when I turn them off, write me insulting
yeah,
messages saying, "Why did you turn me off?" I said,
yeah,
"It's literally in the title of the group, woman only.
yeah,
You're not a woman. Bye bye." what the fuck do you want to be in that group for anyway?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, it's
Information
kind of,
is
it's a
better.
Woody Allen thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, they want
It's
to be members of clubs that yeah, I only want to be member of a club that rejects me.
yeah. Yeah. I actually had a similar experience about 2 weeks ago. I was in what I thought was an all women group, and it is brought across as that. The title doesn't carry that, but everything was women interacting, and it was a business group, so nothing to be concerned about. But I was actually caught unawares when a guy came in the group and said, "Hey, ladies, please could you advise me?" And I was like, "There's men in this group?" And she had portrayed the whole time that she's there for women. And it just unsettled me for a second. And I thought, hang on. But it kind of put a damper on me sharing what I wanted to share, kind of thing.
Today I had another one of those, which I was like, sorry, what? I was invited to be a speaker in a summit, which is called Women Wisdom
Yes.
something. I don't remember exactly. And I don't want to, tell names.
Yeah.
And all women speakers, except for the host, who's a man. And I'm like, sorry, you must be
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Are
think I
you
got
are
invited.
you being
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah. I actually think I know which group you're talking about. I was approached by someone similar, and it was like, no, come on, this is a
You
joke.
know, this is a joke. We have the boss is a man, because obviously, and I'm like,
No. Mm-mm.
anyway,
No, it doesn't
it's
work for
like,
me.
I do not take advice from the Pope regarding fertility and pregnancy because he doesn't have the tools. And I'm like, anyway,
Mm-mm.
sorry, tangent. That's
Not
my
at all.
feminist person
Mm.
taking
No.
over. Let's go back to the Hush Festival. So, safe container uh, as 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 good as you can be safe. Obviously, you
Yeah.
can never guarantee 100%, but I know
No.
that you are actually fact checking so
Mm.
much, which is, I think, so important because that's the thing. If we say this is a safe space,
Yeah.
and we betray the women who
Yeah.
come in,
Mm.
it ends up becoming very, very painful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Zaya, one thing that I have done is um, I've kept it small on purpose. I've got a number in my head that when it reaches that, I will break that group away and start a new group because I want to keep
mm,
it small, that it can be kept safe.
mm,
The moment you end up with a group of thousands of people, to me, that's no
there's no
longer
way.
a safe space. So this is a smaller group of women. There are more women joining each time, but I've got a number in my head that I know that I can personally um, manage
Mhm.
that number of people without getting. I don't want to have so many admins and moderate. It's just then it's not safe. In my head.
It's interesting because, it goes back to something that I very strongly believe is that humans are not meant to be in huge communities. Like,
Correct. Yeah.
basically, when there's too many humans, insecurities is
Exactly.
there,
Yeah.
whatever the humans and whatever the conditions. That's why we used to live in villages and in tribes and, in groups of small
Yeah.
importance, so that we could fact check each other, basically, and our ancestors could fact check each other and
Mm.
get rid of people, throw away people that were dangerous to the tribe or the clan.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and of course, that was the most dangerous situation,
Mm.
being thrown out. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's one of the basic fears of humans.
Yeah.
But
Very painful.
today, in our very modern world, where we have huge megalopolis with, literally millions of people,
Yeah.
um, creating small spaces, small safe spaces is, I think, is an amazing mission. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for creating those.
Yeah.
I,
And
I kind of do the same when I do my retreats. I
yeah.
really try to keep them small because I think that there's also, this is the pendant of the same coin. The other side is
Mm.
when there is a smaller group, you cannot hide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're also, if you're talking about entering a group, whether in my retreat or in the Hush Festival, in order to change something in your life, in order to improve, grow, whatever you want to call it, heal,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
um, and there is too big a group, you can then go and hide and do nothing of
Correct.
the sort. Whereas
And
in a
that's
small
exactly
group,
what happens. That's exactly what happens. People disappear into the system, kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah. And
and I think that's sad, basically.
mm, it is. And you know, Isaiah, the other thing with um, when because the container is smaller, what I have found is that you've I literally made a post about it last year. You either get it or you don't. So I've had speakers who wanted to apply and then said, well, gee, you know, they don't know why they have to pay for this. And other speakers who have turned around and said, wow, you know, I thought you're going to have a massive audience. Where's my bang for buck? They're missing the point of what Hush is all about. Okay? Hush
Okay,
is
so
Hush is a
tell
giving
us.
space. Yeah. Hush to me, Hush is my way of giving back. Okay, so obviously there's an energy exchange of sorts, however, that has to happen with the speakers. And it also allows me to literally give up 3 to 4 weeks of my life.
Mm,
I'm pre event, the event, and post event.
mm,
And the types of speakers, we've got three different, more or less three different types of speakers. You've got the women who are either experts or have some sort of talent or wisdom that they do as a business, you know, and they will come in and they will share that with you. Be it a neuroscientist, a psychologist, a healer, you know, that sort of thing. And they then get to shamelessly, you know, they mustn't make it a big punt about what they do, but they can shamelessly talk about their work that they do, punt themselves, put their links. You know, I want women to find these special women who do this work. You know,
mhm,
so it is. They are very much allowed to do self promotion inside there, whether it's in a post, whether it's during their talk, and at the end of the festival, I make sure that people can communicate with them anyway. So that's the one type of speaker. The other one would be somebody who has lived through or experienced and healed from something and
mhm,
just wants to share her story so that
mhm,
other women don't feel alone. Okay?
mhm,
And I think this is a very important a talk to be had when you know somebody's actually lived something that you're probably going through. And you're able to self identify with that speaker, and it becomes very healing for the women, even if they're not interacting with the post. I get
mhm,
messages in my DMs or on WhatsApp saying, wow, okay,
mhm,
that really resonated. And sometimes they reach out. I know a couple that have actually reached out and made friends and support each other now. And then you've got the third type, and these ones are so precious, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. These are the brave souls who have never, ever spoken about something that has happened to them or something they have done, and they are now speaking up for the very first time. They are afraid, they are scared of being shamed, and they are concerned that if they talk about their story, that it's not going to be received well, or you know, they're going to be a laughing stock or whatever it might be. Now, those particular ones, and this is why I keep it smaller, is I literally will go on the Zoom with them before they go on, and I say, at any point, if you want to pull the plug during your talk, I'm right here. So
mm,
there's a lot of support that goes with those speakers. I have, on 2 occasions, um, supported
mm,
the one woman, and I know she won't mind me sharing this. She has, she's on the spectrum, autism spectrum, and I
mhm,
know her well enough to know when it's starting to kick in, her overwhelm. And she was doing brilliantly talking about her trying to attempt suicide. So it was a deep topic. And
yeah,
as she was talking, I could actually see it coming. And I gently just was a voice in the room and said, Tammy, may I join you? And I got on the talk with her, and I started talking, which gave her enough time to compose herself. And then she said, okay, I'm fine, I'm back. You know, so it really is. You've got to, I support these women fully. So she was
mm,
talking about her attempt at suicide, and she really, really wanted to go. And it was the
mm,
first time she was ever talking about it.
mm,
And, you know, and that was just one example of the kinds of conversations we can have in there where you come and
mm,
tell your own truth. There was a woman who pulled out at the last minute. I think she's going to join this Hush, whose daughter was in a terribly abusive situation, and the man eventually, the estranged husband, who she had restraining orders against and everything, he literally he murdered her in broad daylight. and it was just
Wow.
hitting too, it was just too much too soon for her. And she said, I thought I'd be strong enough, but I'm not. And she pulled out at
Mm,
the last minute. And that is perfectly fine. I've got speakers during the festival, women who weren't going to sign up and speak,
mhm,
who found their voice and said, is it too late to sign up?
mm,
Now, in Hush, it's never too late to sign up, because the way I manage the slots is I keep a number of slots per day where
mm,
if somebody does want to step up, and there are
mhm,
always going to be slots available, because I want women to be able to find their voices, you know.
mm.
So that's about the speakers, the different.
So three
Yeah.
categories of speakers.
Mm,
And for the, let's say, professional or expert speakers,
mm,
there's a fee, right?
yeah.
Because
For
there
all
is no
speakers.
fee for to listen, and that's very important, I
Correct.
think. So
Mm,
it's like because the festival needs to be financed,
yeah.
basically, and your work and everything.
Mm,
It's the speakers who pay,
yeah.
and yeah, I think it's worth mentioning because it at first it might, kind of be a surprise.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's worth explaining.
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
did you choose this format?
I took a
Um,
lot of flack from coaches and from people who were wanting to talk and then went, oh, I don't pay to talk, and that's the post I did. Like, you either get it or you don't. You're either here to help women or you're not. Um, and it's a small fee. It's not thousands of rands or dollars or
yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
But coming back to the women who attend the festival, I was told you're doing it the wrong way around. You need to let the speakers talk for free, and the people coming to the event need to pay.
Hmm.
That defeats the whole objective. And I'll give you an example of what could happen. And this is why I'm very firm about the attendees do not pay. And I'll stick with this forever. If you have ever been in an abusive relationship, this is just one example of many, and you know that your every move is being watched. You know that you need help. You know you want to reach out and be with someone who can help you, but you can't reach out because your very move is being watched. And when I say abuse, when it comes to abuse, financial abuse,
Financial abuse, yeah. We were
it
talking
is,
about that yesterday or 2 days ago
yeah.
on the next episode that I'm doing for the podcast with Ree Pearson. And we
Okay.
talked a good 20 minutes about how
Yeah.
financial abuse is
Hmm.
so underseen, undertalked,
Yeah.
but so freaking important for
Huge.
so
It's
many
huge.
women.
Yeah. There's one way to track your woman. You watch her
Mhm.
credit card, you watch what she's spending on, you know. And can you imagine a woman who's in one of these highly potentially violent relationships where her every move, including her bank statement, if she's lucky enough to have her own bank account,
Yeah.
suddenly
And
there's
her
a
own credit card, because so
yep,
many women don't. Mhm.
and suddenly a transaction comes through and says, Hush Festival. How
Mhm.
do you explain this? I want women to be able to sneak in without
Mhm.
anybody
Mhm.
knowing they're going to this festival. Um, and that is why, and that's one of the reasons I've kept it very much that also you will find women who are in a place where they don't even have finances. It might not be an abusive
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
It might be a completely different party. She might have been betrayed by her husband. She might be a mistress who's just been chucked by her long-time married man. She's penniless now, which now she can't even come and listen to someone trying to give her guidance. There's so many scenarios where women who need to hear these conversations are
Mhm.
not getting access to them in a safe container,
Mhm.
without having to pay an arm and a leg. And I
Mhm.
refuse to be that woman. I don't want to be a part of that.
I understand. It took me a while, not a while. It took me you explaining, sorry,
Yeah.
that, but I think it's really worth explaining repeatedly,
Yeah.
because it's a completely different ball game than if you go and listen to or participate as a speaker into a so-called summit where experts will deliver very clever and very maybe crucial information,
Mm.
um, and healing to people who pay for it, and the experts then expect a return on investment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a
And
completely
also the
different thing.
recordings. they start bumping up to say, if you want a copy of the recording, become a
mm,
VIP member.
mm,
I've got a library there now. It's
mm,
there.
mm,
I don't, there's no, the replays are all available to the women inside that hush
mm,
container, so they don't have to rush through them. And I don't mean just
mm,
from the current hush. We're building a
mm,
library
mm,
of each hush. This will be the third iteration of hush that I'm doing now.
mm.
So,
What I think is really interesting also is the idea that when, as a speaker, if I consider, me as a speaker, because I'm a
mm,
woman, so why not?
good.
The fact that I can enter this on with two purposes.
Yes,
One
100%.
is a I serve thing,
Hmm.
and the other one, of course, I'm talking about entering as a speaker. Let's call me expert,
Yes.
not as sorry, witness or
Yeah. Mm.
specific. It's not about my story.
Yeah.
If I have a story to tell, that's a completely different ballgame. But here,
Mm.
if I put myself into an expert's feet and say, if I enter, I can enter out of my goodwill, like give to charity,
Hmm.
share my knowledge, share things that I know. But
Hmm.
there's also another thing that I'm not even sure you realize that is there, is the
Mm.
possibility for someone, for a woman, to dare to say things that she might not dare to say in her professional setting.
Yeah.
And maybe try test trial if
Yeah.
that is, hmm, am I going to say that out loud later? Let
Yeah.
me test trial this in hush and see
Yeah.
if that is part of my message and if I'm really comfortable saying,
Yeah.
sharing
I'm
that,
glad.
because we've been, with AI and also the mainstream idea, we've been
Mm.
conditioned, mostly as women, to talk about topics that are politically correct, acceptable,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. And this is what is supposed to make you money. So,
Yeah.
as a coach, healer, whatever, expert, we end up all talking about the same things
Yeah.
because that's supposed to make us money. But it so happens that people don't buy from if it looks like a robotic copy of somebody else.
Exactly.
So for me, I can imagine that coming to the Hush Festival as the coach healer expert to talk is also a place to test trial some new
Yeah.
things, some things that
And
might be less mainstream, more dangerous,
and
more
there's two I can think of. I can think of two speakers already that spoke in the past. That the one was a first time ever speaker. She had been doing her business for years, but had never spoken on a platform, and it was nerve wracking for her. It was her first time talking. I mean, she talks all the time in person. She talks all the time in her small groups, but she's never had a platform where she's been a speaker.
mm,
And for her, it was her first, opportunity to be able to say further down the track, yes, and I've stood on the hush stage, and so it does help with that. Also, there was a speaker who had started a new business in the sensuality, erotica area,
yeah, nice topic
and she had,
about we don't talk about. Another
yep,
thing we don't talk
and
about.
she's never been able to talk openly, and she had come from a very, very religious background
Mm,
where she had been literally women, you are women, you shall be like this. And
mm-hmm,
she has completely transformed her life, and she now teaches eroticism.
mm,
But for her to come and do her first talk, she was so nervous and worrying about what's the right words to choose. I said, speak
mm,
from your heart. And
mm.
she did, and she blew the house down. I mean, it was great. But again, that was, a nice platform for her to get her confidence, put it to you that way. Yeah.
So you were saying this is the third iteration, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sorry, how many speakers roughly do you imagine there's going to be, or there was in the past?
Yeah. I think the first round we had about 48. The second round, I think we had about 35. And then this round, I'm hoping also again in the region of 35 to up to 50. I don't want it
And
too much longer than that. And the slots are given a guideline, for lack of a better word, is a 30-minute slot.
mm,
Purely because if your talk goes for longer than that, you might end up losing your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That being said, I put enough of a buffer time in that if somebody's pouring out their heart, I'm not about to say,
Yeah.
"Hello,
You're
your
not like,
time's up."
hey, clock
Yeah,
time.
so
Time's
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. So I've got a sort of program, but I'm also flexible, but in such a way that it doesn't impact the next speaker.
Mm.
You know what I'm like with spreadsheets and behind the scenes. Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
So, we did not give the dates. We have to give the
Ah,
dates.
yes. Yeah. I
So
actually,
May
yeah.
2026, if you're listening to that this year, and the
Mm.
exact dates are
It's the 11th to the 16th of May. So it's Monday the
okay,
11th to Saturday the 16th.
okay.
And what I had to do, the very first one, I had to add a day at the end because suddenly there were speakers, which is, I'm happy to do that, So that's why it's from Monday to Saturday with a backup day of the Sunday if need be. And that certainly happened in the first hush.
Mm.
Yeah, sudden.
And sorry. And so we didn't even discuss that. You are in South Africa, right?
Ah, yes, yes.
So time zones.
Yeah. So basically, I have tried to cater for. I've literally got a spreadsheet which again starts in the Pacific in America and goes across to Eastern Australia,
Mhm.
and I've had Australian speakers that have gotten up early in the morning, 7:30
Yeah.
their time. I'm a night owl. I'm happy to sit. So for me, I'm literally running from about midday to past midnight my time.
Hmm.
But I'm
Hmm.
a night owl, so it works for me. It works for the people getting up in the morning in the Pacific,
Hmm.
and the guys late at night in Australia. And
Hmm.
then again, those who want to get up really early in Australia, I've still got two slots running if they, the morning lock kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I've also had one speaker from Australia whose time didn't work for her, and I bumped the time schedule. It's like,
Mm.
if you've got a message that needs to be shared, I'm not going
Yeah.
to be
Hmm.
rigid kind of thing. And also, the other question I've been asked is, do I have to do it live or can I send a recording?
Yeah, I was going there. That was literally my next question.
Okay, so I know from a make my life easier point of view, I should be saying send your recordings, but there is nothing like in the moment live. So I've literally had three women who did recordings, two because they couldn't make it, they physically were not able to make it on those dates,
Mhm.
but desperately wanted to share their message. One was about how she had left her domestic abuse relationship, and then there was a third one who got cold feet, and she said to me, I'm just not confident enough, but I really want to share my message. I said to her, that's fine, then send a recording.
And
But the
I don't know if you know that, but I'm running, I have run 4 times and I'm thinking of doing it again. A summit, a weird summit that is called Women Lighting the Way, which is an invitation for women to come and tell their story.
Yeah,
And we do the I say we because I run the two first editions with my bestie Chris.
yeah,
Now I'm doing this alone, but what we ask is for women to come and record because it's another difficulty. It's
yeah,
stand in front of a freaking camera on your own with no
uh,
audience, no one interviewing you,
yeah,
and telling your story. And
yeah,
that is so healing for these women. It's a completely
hmm,
different type of healing,
yeah,
but I understand the live component.
yeah,
I just want to invite you to know that it's
mm.
recording is not easier. It's a different
No, no,
type of difficulty.
exactly. But if it appeals, if a woman tells me it's easier for her, then by all means, you know what I'm saying?
No, I think
Um,
the idea that, that it's very different with the Hush thing
mm,
is that it's a festival. So
yeah,
if we're all live, you know,
mm,
attendees and speakers, etc., it
yeah,
creates this mass effect of
mm,
we're talking together, this is
correct.
happening.
Yeah,
Whereas having everyone record would make it more like a series of conferences, to
yeah,
put it this way,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
a completely different atmosphere, let's call it like
mm,
this, or energy.
yeah.
Um,
And the other thing that the live captures is the feelings.
yeah.
Hush is
Hmm.
something you feel. For me to
Hmm.
try and describe to you what hush actually is, I've used all the words, but hush is an experience that you feel. And you cannot help but feel because you're in there in that moment as that woman is sharing her story, as Tammy did, and I know she won't mind me sharing her name, that where Tammy was actually literally losing it, getting overwhelmed, not able to control it.
Mm-hmm.
So that if there were other women in the group that were autistic, if she had sent a recording nice and prim
Mm-hmm.
and proper,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have been able to say, "That's me. She gets me." We saw Tammy literally getting overwhelmed in the moment. And again, there were so many comments under her talk of support, of understanding, of compassion, and wow, that's me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
Yeah.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's the experience within Hush, and that's why I don't expect somebody to know how to do the tech of all the live, and that's why I started doing, instead of letting them have to go in live on their own, I offer, if you want, I can take you in live. I'll manage the tech, but you go and talk live.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is for me quite important that they attempt to do the live
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a recording, purely because
Yeah,
of the
no,
scale.
I hear you. It's energetically, it's a completely different atmosphere. Just wanted to mention that it's a choice, and that
Yes,
creates the different atmosphere.
yeah,
Um, the way we do it is more around creating a library of stories,
yes,
uh, and offering that chance. But it's
yeah,
mostly not live, but it's a
yeah,
different energy. I think
yeah,
that both are
absolutely.
interesting.
And also
And
the other thing is Hush isn't just all heavy topics. And I've done
mhm,
this on purpose because if the entire event was just heavy,
yeah,
heavy, heavy
one sad
topics,
story after
yeah,
another.
yeah. So, for example, in between, I welcome speakers who want to come and talk about. I've had an image consultant who came in and had such an awesome talk about how different colors affect your not only your mood but how you look. To uplift you, kind of thing. I've had another woman who runs wildlife safaris telling about her adventures.
Oh, that's cool.
And for her it was about at the end pitching about, do you want to come on one of my wildlife safaris,
Of
kind of
course.
thing. So it's not just about healers or specialists that deal with trauma. I also want women who maybe they do art and they've got something artistic they want to teach.
That's what I was going
Um,
to say, because if
there's
you
got to
are
be a balance.
a listener or an attendee,
Mm,
and you are going through hell at this minute,
yeah,
um, you also might want to,
mm,
not be defined completely by your trauma,
yeah, exactly.
and be
Yeah,
able to consider going on a safari, learning some new art technique,
yeah,
or learning your colors and how to dress
yeah,
up.
yeah. So it's
Um,
certainly not a 50-50 balance, but there's a good amount of those kinds of talks as well that have got nothing to do with drama, trauma. They have got to do with taboo, but they are
mhm,
uplifting topics,
mhm. Yeah.
type of thing. Just so that we doesn't become this heaviness. Because
Hmm.
you know what I'm like. I mean, the moment I feel something's getting too heavy, my humor comes out, and I start, you know, doing the silly things, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's to keep me sane as well. I think humor and a sense of humor is imperative in anybody's life. Um,
I
you
agree.
know,
I agree very much. Just like art and nature.
yeah, and music.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, so
Mm.
we've covered that roughly, but let me ask specifically, why do you consider that this is a public service? Why is it useful? Um,
For
the
me
festival in
personally,
itself.
yeah.
Um,
You know what? Because I've been that woman.
mhm,
Um, and I was in a leadership role, a role model. And when shit started going down in my life, there was nobody I could turn to. There was no one I could
mhm,
share my story with because there was this, got to keep this face on.
mm,
Meanwhile, the abuse going on behind closed doors. I've spoken about it openly in Hush. I've shared my own stories in there of my personal journey, my own experiences. And I literally have been that woman who has no place to share my story or to realize there are other women like me in a similar position.
mm,
Because the thing that blows my mind is how and I'll bring it back to domestic abuse, but it could be with any topic. It's almost that people imagine a certain type of woman who will be abused. Okay?
Yeah.
There is no certain type of woman.
No.
She could be a multi-billionaire, or she could be a school teacher, or she could be a
Yeah.
homemaker.
And she can be
Abuse,
13 or
yeah,
35 or
yep.
65.
Abuse is abuse is abuse. And sadly, the higher you are in your personal life, the harder you're going to fall. So you don't reach out for help, and that's exactly what your perpetrator knows, and they continue to control you because you can't let the mask slip, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the number of women I work with that are at that level, um, basically, and that's why Hush really, for me, it's very personal, very, very personal, and I handle it as such, So
So at this minute, you are still looking for speakers.
I am, yes.
So people will find, or women, sorry, not people, women
Women
will
only.
find the links to apply as a speaker
Yeah,
below the video, audio, wherever we're sharing this. If
perfect.
you are listening to this episode in the future, ignore the links because Annie's not going to answer you next September or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
Now, if you do not, if you're not ready to be a speaker, you can be an attendee. And that, as we said previously, is free. And you will find those links as well below. And yeah, please come join and see for yourself. Let's say, I want to say
Yeah.
that. See
Yeah.
for yourself what the magic of it is. And since it is completely free for attendees, you can even, dip a little toe in it and see if
Yeah.
that's for you or not.
And if
And I
it's
think
not,
that's also very important because when we're talking about things that we don't talk about, sometimes you're not ready to, plunge completely, but you
mm,
can come and just watch one thing.
yeah.
And it's, if that's what you need, that's
Yeah.
enough. And
Exactly.
since there is no finance attached, you can enter without fear of, oh, now I've paid for this thing, so I need to, kind of make
Yeah.
the most of
Not at
it.
all. Yeah.
Um,
And the recordings are all there. It's not one of those where somebody's going to bump you up and say, in order to get the recordings, none of that bullshit. I want a library of talks to be available for the women who do come and join Hush over the next however long Hush exists.
mhm.
Um, you know,
That's
so
amazing. I'm really excited
me
now.
too.
I wasn't that much before, but now I am. I think I've made up my mind. I want to be a speaker.
Yes.
But um,
Mm.
I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. But
You know,
that's it.
also what I've found is with the talks that we have, there are some topics that are in my life nothing's taboo. I've always been that kind of person. My kids talk to me about things that other kids would never talk to their parents about.
I know the feeling.
My stepchildren who are grown adults, phone me and talk to me about things that you'd think other. I'm privileged that my children have learned that they can talk to me in this way, okay, and I think for that, just because of that and because of my own journey in my life, and it's not just domestic abuse, I've done some really stupid things in my life. I've got a bunch of t-shirts that, when I look at the speakers, I have to sit there and bite my tongue. I'm like, me too, that kind of thing. I've lived a life that I've done some stupid, stupid things. I've made some horrendous mistakes. So when someone says, I've got a topic I want to talk about, but I think it might be taboo, or too taboo, trust me, it's not too taboo. And I challenge you to try and make me go, oh, that's too taboo. Because,
No, I was actually thinking that
hmm,
what you said last at the last part, which is it's not all about heavy subjects, and
yeah, yeah,
because I think that we have this tendency to kind of separate, we have
mm,
these places where we talk about the things we don't talk about, and
yeah,
that's heavy trauma, blah blah blah, heavy, 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 and then we have the positive spaces where we only talk about the fun stuff and the good
exactly.
stuff,
Mm,
and that makes the fun and the joy. it diminishes
Yeah.
the value of it, and
Mm.
I really think that that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Basically, I think that, we
Yeah.
can't.
Mm.
Martin Luther King, I think, said that you can't only light can enlighten the shadow. You
Yeah.
can't you
Exactly.
can't get
Yeah.
rid of shadow with more shadow. So at some
Yeah.
point we have to be light.
Yeah. You know,
Also,
and also
not ignoring the shadow things, but
exactly. And sometimes you hear a talk you didn't know you needed to hear.
yeah,
Can you
of course.
imagine? And this has happened, and I think I've got a talk like this coming up in the next hush. I just need to confirm that. Is can you imagine being a woman whose husband betrayed her? Okay, you're a wife. Your husband betrayed you. He's had a lifelong mistress, or even if it's just been a mistress for a few years. Okay, can you imagine being that woman sitting in an audience and suddenly coming to talk about her experience as a mistress,
Hmm.
talking about what it's like to live and how she ended up being a mistress and what that carried for her. Now you are on the other side of the foot. You can either choose not to listen to her talk, or you
Hmm.
can sit there and go, let me listen. Maybe I'll learn something here. Maybe I'll
Hmm.
understand what happened there.
Of course.
And
Hmm.
likewise, having a woman who was betrayed and you've got a mistress in the audience listening to the
Hmm.
heartache, realizing the
Hmm.
pain. You know, this infidelity for me is one of my favorite topics, all-time favorite topics, because in my experience of infidelity, there's the triangle, okay, which means a man and two women. I know infidelity happens the other way around. There are women who have affairs with married men.
Hmm.
Married women who have affairs. But my basic one that I work with is one man, two women, okay.
Hmm.
And if you think about how fucked up, excuse my language, the whole thinking is that you've got one man. He's a common denominator. He ruins the mistress's life, he ruins the wife's life. He pits these two women against each other, so they
Hmm.
hate each other. They never get to talk, so they can never compare notes. So he
Yeah.
ends up, oftentimes, his mates going, rib, rib, how are you getting away with this, you
Hmm.
lucky bugger, kind of thing. Or he gets caught out, one of the women turn against him, but not both.
Hmm.
The oak's not losing, okay? And you've got these two women who are pitted against each other. And I managed, about 2 years ago, I managed to get a mistress and a betrayed wife. Not from the same relationship,
Hmm.
okay? They, but I got a mistress's point of view and a betrayed wife's point of view. And I got them to talk with each other. And the healing that came about
Yeah,
between
that
these
must have been,
two,
yeah, that's amazing.
because suddenly you're seeing it from a different vantage point. And the mistress is no longer this ugly slut who's there to destroy marriages, you
Yeah,
know, and
we have,
the wife is not this useless woman who can't keep her husband
mm,
happy, you know. It's oh, I love this
historically,
topic.
we have a very, very heavy situation there with men kind of not even pitting women against each other, but just
Women,
organizing society so that women do that to their
yeah,
sisters. I remember I was in a tantric workshop years ago, and exclusively feminine, so women only, right? Working on our sexuality, what that meant. Not a lesbian one, bear you, all heterosexual women, but still working on our own around this with in the sisterhood, and it was amazing. You know, the sharing, the bonding, the healing, the amazingness. 3 days of complete for me, who at the time I didn't know what a woman was. I didn't know I was one. I had no idea. I was like, what the fuck?
I'm a girl.
I'm not even. My father defined me as a walking brain, and that's what I
Wow.
was. So,
Yeah.
very successful,
Mm,
up above in the head.
mm,
And the last day, the fourth day, the facilitator comes and says, there's going to be an encounter with the similar workshop that's run in a nearby retreat center, men only. So we're going to have a formal encounter to see what's going to happen, very formal, ritualized, no, not ball or kissing or whatever,
okay.
just very ritual. But still, put yourself, choose a nice dress, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You should have seen the
Yep.
gut-throating situation that happened
Mm.
in, the mere mention of men
Yep.
destroyed the sisterhood completely.
Yeah.
I was
Obviously.
flabbergasted
Yeah.
at
Mm.
the there was not even the remote possibility that you were going to hook up with a man.
Mm.
The
Ah,
question was, who are these men who we don't know, basically? Maybe
yeah.
they're all ugly or,
Yeah. Yeah.
or impotent or whatever. Who are these men going to choose, to
Yeah.
look at,
Hmm.
to fall for? And I was like, come on, girls, ladies, we've been doing this for 3 days.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the ritual. I just,
Yeah.
I left. I stayed in my room. I was like, no, I'm not doing
Sure.
this.
No, it
I'm
defeats
not,
the whole object. Yeah.
but it's so ingrained in women,
It
this
is.
competition for the male.
Yeah.
It's so freaking ingrained. And
Yeah.
then, this is unpeeling onion skins for years until we
Hmm.
get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, your triangle is a similar thing. My
Yeah.
workshop was 65 women. Can you imagine?
Wow. That energy.
Not two, 65. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is too much for me.
Oh. And you know what I think? I think as humans are women, female humans are. I actually having this little internal laugh. If you look throughout nature, it's the males that have to make pretty and they have
Parade,
to
yeah,
show
yeah.
off and they have to attract.
Hmm.
We've got it all backwards. Like,
Absolutely.
why isn't this
Absolutely.
man prancing around as he gets older, keeping himself in shape? Um, instead he's ending up with a beer boop and,
Yeah.
balding hair, and they do nothing about it. And we're all still sitting there trying to look like
Hmm. And they
absolute
find it
goddesses.
not
You
even,
know?
don't get me started on the idea that the old men and the young women,
Mm,
because this for me is the beginning of abuse.
yeah, big time. Yep.
The 30-year-old or 25-year-old woman with a 45 or 50-year-old man. And
Yeah.
once you start to see that, you cannot unsee it.
And see it. Yep.
You can see it in the movies.
Hmm.
Hollywood is full of that. Of course,
Yeah.
all
Hmm.
every script is written by an old white male,
Yes.
or almost all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
And you have all these very young, beautiful women who are so desperate to get the old man's attention, and I'm like, seriously?
Wow. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I've got
Anyway,
a the other
sorry.
thing that happens with that, yes, there's the abuse side of it, exactly as you said, with the much older guy and a younger woman. But just on the outside, even if that woman was madly in love with this guy, what is the perception from the outside? From the outside, this man is doing so well that he can actually pull in this babe.
Hmm.
And what is people saying about her? She must be a gold digger.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
it's like this, she might really, really be in love with the man. She might actually see something nobody else does. But hell no, they're going to see her as a gold digger, or someone trying to climb the ladder or whatever.
There are so many situations in which women have been um, socially pushed into
Mm,
competing with each other, competing for male attention, etc., etc. And
hmm
um, the triangle that you were discussing earlier on is I think a very um,
More common than
small
you realize.
representation of that, but it's a perfect metaphor for the rest.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no taboo subjects in the Hush Festival.
Nothing's off the
And
table.
yeah, just like in my podcast, basically.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
there is one thing that you need to do if you want to come is to register.
Yeah.
Because this conversation is very nice, but this is not the Hush Festival.
Yep.
So if you want to come, and again, you don't have to, commit to 5 days of listening to talks nonstop. You can dip in and out, and you have the recordings afterwards. So I think it's a question of, if you feel that this has your name on it, just do it.
Yeah.
And same for speakers.
Mm.
If you feel that this is the place that you might want to talk about something that you've never talked about it before, whether you're a professional testing out waters for a new topic or somebody who needs to get their story out of them and into the world. I cannot emphasize enough the incredible power of telling your story.
It's cathartic as
Because because I've been running this summit myself about women's stories, it's incredibly powerful, not only for you, but for the women who listen as well.
yeah.
But for individually, I mean, in the Women Lighting the Way Summit, I've done it 4 times, and every time I go and tell part of my story, and every time I think, okay, done now,
Yeah.
and every
No.
time it's like, oh gosh, there's another freaking layer, and I get
Yeah.
emotional every time, and I can feel how every time there's something of these women that is like shedding a skin
Yep.
of constriction, like the skin has become too small for them, and they emerge out of it like literally phoenixes. And it's really, I've had women turn to me and say, I didn't even know my story
Yeah.
until you said, please tell me your story.
Yeah.
And I had to think about it. What's my story? What again is my story?
Hmm.
And then it's like, oh fuck, this is my story. Oh, this is one of my stories, because I believe we have more than one.
That's yeah.
So yeah, if you feel in any way, shape, or form that there is a story wanting to come out of you,
Come
do
and
it,
talk.
because it's life changing,
Yeah.
and it's also life changing for the listeners.
Yeah. And you know what, desire as well. As much as I am giving, the gift that I receive from the letters I get afterwards from the speakers or the comments in my DMs, it just feeds my soul that I realize that I was able to create a space for someone to heal. And I mean,
Mm.
it's not like I'm doing anything, but like my sister said to me, you don't realize that you do these things. Um, I don't, but for me, it really is. For me, Hush is about giving more than receiving,
Mm.
and there are other ways that I can let people work with me.
Mm.
Hush isn't one of them. Hush is from my heart,
Mm. But I
literally.
think it's, for anyone entering, except for you, but all the rest of us, whether we enter as speakers or as attendees, I think
Mm,
there's giving and receiving in there.
yeah,
And maybe you're in a position that you only want to receive, and that's fine. There is
yeah,
room for that. But
absolutely.
if you are in a position where you can give also, and giving your story is giving, sharing your story with other women is incredibly empowering for you and life changing for them. So if you're in that position, find the links below and
Do
join
it.
Annie, join myself, and all
Good.
the other 30 something speakers. I also love that there's a numerous amount of talks and of people, so that we have different topics, kind of
Yeah.
everything.
Mm.
Voila. So May
Voila.
11th to 16th, is that what you said?
Correct. That's it.
Um, 2026, again, if you're listening to this in the future. If you're listening to this in the future, because I think this is going to happen again,
Mm.
just check out Annie's website or whatever in the links and see if,
Cool.
you want to join in 2027, 28, or because the podcast stayed there forever, as you know. So
Yeah.
thank
Perfect.
you very, very much
Thank you.
for being with me tonight. And I will talk to you soon in the Hush Festival, obviously.
Yay.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to me ramble and to Annie explain a little bit um, about the amazing Hush Festival. Bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye.